is super tight.
So tight.
The most tight.
Most tight. So how do you, like...
Yeah, but they couldn't say. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Second Gear Smiles. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The first video of the year is going to be how to do a brake fluid flush on a 2019 Subaru Crosstrek. This is my fiance's car, and it's a bit overdue for a brake fluid flush. First thing we're going to do is chalk off the rear wheels. Make sure your vehicle's in park and the e-brake is pulled. And the next thing we're going to do is break all the lug nuts loose on all the wheels. Now, if you have something like an impact gun with the corresponding socket, you can do this when the car is up in the air. But let's say you don't have a cordless impact gun, you can still do this with the car on the ground. So get yourself a 1/2-inch ratchet or a breaker bar. For this car, it's a 19mm for the lug nuts. And while the car is still on the ground, just go ahead and break those bolts loose. But I have an impact gun and I've been looking for an excuse to use it. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to jack up the car. And before we go to the rear, give it a good shake. It should be as solid as if it were on the ground. Okay, quick problem that we got to fix. Number one, I should probably put wood underneath the jack stands. This jack stand, the car is on this jack stand, but it's not on this jack stand, and they're all in the same setting. So it seems that this side of the driveway is slightly sloped down. So I'm gonna go cut some wood, one to stabilize this on the driveway and also to make up the height difference. All right, so after struggling with the saw, which I need to invest in a power saw, but we got made up the difference by lifting this jack stand up a little bit, and now everything is good to go on that side. And once we take the wheels off, we're going to slide the wheels under the frame rail. So again, if God forbid something were to happen, the car isn't coming crashing down on top of us, or well, like it somewhat saves the car. Seated all the way. These are pretty light wheels, but if you ever...
the wheels for your car's heavy. What's that?
That's a it's the nut for your axle. It's meant to be dented in like that. Oh. So this is a kind of a like a locking nut. Oh. So that's supposed to be there. Control arm.
What's a good rotor and what's a bad rotor?
So
what are you looking for?
Right now I'm just looking for kind of ridging. So these rotors still have probably another, you're at 66,000 miles right now?
Yeah, 62, 66.
You could probably go to 90. The way you drive and how like so just
these will start getting like bumpy?
No, they'll get ridges. So like if you feel like a ridge or anything. Player? Yeah. So they're not new, but you can still, rotors are expensive, so you want to try and eke as much life out of them as possible. So we'll probably need to replace these rotors before the front ones.
Okay, ones are a lot better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing any.
What do you want me to grab?
Can you grab the lug nuts so they're not just, we don't lose them? Yeah, I'm not feeling any ridging or anything. Before we get to the brake fluid flush, we're actually going to replace the brake pads. Rotors look good. We don't need to get rotors for this go around. These rotors will probably last until 100,000 miles. This car is about 66,000 miles as of right now. So we'll go ahead and replace the brake pads. So on all four wheels, there are two bolts that hold the caliper to the caliper bracket. One is visible in the video, and the other one is on the bottom of the caliper bracket. It's super obvious, but if you see a line going into a bolt, that is the banjo bolt for the brake line. So unless you plan on removing the brake line from the caliper, don't touch that. This is not a guide pin.
There's another one. Right here.
That is that's part of the brake line. Yeah, this holds this is the banjo bolt for the brake line. We don't want to remove that. All right, so I thought these were going to be guide pins, but I guess we'll figure this out together. Okay, I see how this works. Oh my. So there is some rust on the inside of here. Well, good thing we're doing this. You don't want to let the just caliper hang from the brake line. That's going to put a lot of stress on the brake line. So can you grab me a screwdriver, please? Ah, there we go. Okay, I see. Yeah, there's still a lot of life left on these pads. Here, I'll go grab the... So there's we're probably going to reuse these pads. I'll show you the new ones. So these are these are the old ones. There's still a ton of life left on these. This is the new pad. This is the old pad. There's still a decent amount of life left on these. So,
I mean, we're here. May as well
yeah,
change
we might.
it.
Yeah, there's enough. I mean, these will last another 40,000 miles probably.
May as well do it now.
Yeah, we're here. We might as well do it. So before I take that off, let me just make sure this comes with the... Yep, sweet. Bad boy is back into place. There we go. There's that side. There we go. Sweet. Sweet. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to compress this piston back into the caliper. You want to do this carefully so you don't damage any of the ABS sensor and you don't cause any issues with the brake fluid. So you want to do it slow and steady. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the old brake pad, and you can do this with a C-clamp. There's a couple of videos on YouTube that use a C-clamp, but we're going to use this little thing I have out of a brake kit. So the black piece is seated against the bracket right here. Look at that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to very slowly compress it. So one piston goes in, I'm going to back it out, and then just go back and forth until until both pistons are fully pushed back into the caliper. All right, we're going to back that off, move it to the other side. Yeah. Okay, I think that's good. We'll go ahead and try and put the caliper back on.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's flat.
Awesome. All right, let's see if we can get this back on. And it slides right back over. And then you're just going to go ahead and put these bolts back in. There we go. All right, thread it in by hand. That way you don't cross thread anything. And then you just do the same on the bottom. I don't know what the torque spec is for these, so we're just going to do it until they're nice and snug. But again, these were able to go, the threads on these are still really clean. This is only a 2019 6-year-old car in 2025. So I'm gonna snug these back up. All right, new brake pads in, one side down. And then it's gonna be the exact same for the other side. So something to take note of, this car, the 2019 Subaru Crosstrek XV, this car does not have the electronic e-brake. It has a manual e-brake. So I'm trying to see where the e-brake shoe is. An e-brake shoe might be underneath the rotor. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll figure this out. Hopefully, it looks to be the similar. It looks to be similar as the front. Like these two bolts just come out, and then you lift everything up, and it should be quote unquote easy. Hopefully, I just didn't jinx myself. And this socket's too tall.
You want the short one?
Yeah.
What size?
Same size, 14 millimeter. I'm always paranoid about rounding bolts with 12 points. I try not to use them whenever possible. Come on, come on out. Warriors, come out to play. I think like 30% of my, oh, this one only has a single piston.
Oh, nice.
So interesting. I think we can, yeah. So we can, yeah. We can just rest the bracket right there. It's not a super sharp bend in the brake line. And then these itty bitty. Ah, dang it! I got something in my eye.
Uh-oh.
We need the eye wash station. Oh wait, we don't have an eye wash station. There we go. There we go. These look to be the right parts. And these definitely got way more. These are pretty worn compared to the new ones. So these ones we definitely need to replace.
Yeah. Quite worn. Why do you not want to touch the pad?
You don't want to have any sort of contaminants or anything between the rotor and the brake pad, because my understanding is that it basically bites into the, basically kind of at the microscopic level bites into the rotor, and anything that isn't brake pad and rotor, you aren't going to get as good of a mating surface. So that's how I always thought. I'm sure somebody down in the comments can tell me I'm a fucking idiot. Don't want to get any, especially with your bare fingers. So fun fact, I didn't know this until I went to the ground safety course. Brake pads are made with asbestos, the stuff that basically if you inhale it, it fucking kills you. Now, unless you're taking a air hammer to this thing, asbestos is only dangerous when it's friable, i.e. the little particles like into the air. So unless you're taking like an air hammer to this thing, you're like, you'll be just fine. But the reason asbestos was used in so many different housing and industrial applications because it's really, really good at absorbing heat. It's a good heat, not absorbing heat, I guess preventing heat or dissipating heat, whatever the technical term is. It's really good at keeping stuff from catching on fire. But it's also incredibly hazardous to people's health. So pros and cons, I guess. One thing I need to learn is when and where to apply brake grease. So I haven't applied any grease to these brakes, and honestly I'm sure somebody will point out that I probably should have, and I'm sure in hindsight it's like I probably should have applied grease at this point, this, that, and the other. But I'm doing with what I know, and I'm just trying to get better a little bit at a time as I do different vehicles, different jobs on different vehicles, etc, etc, etc. So 1% growth, that's what I always say, and I'm sure I'll look back on this like I should have been putting grease on XYZ the whole time. But for the time being, this is what we're doing. Thank you. Oh, that is a...
Maybe see if the other one's thinner.
Yeah. Unfortunately, even with my brake tool completely bottomed out, I couldn't fit it inside the caliper and the brake pad along with the piston. So we swapped over to the C-clamp. At this point, putting the rear calipers back on is the exact same process as the front. They're held in by two 14mm bolts on the top and the bottom. It's amazing how much easier working on a 6-year-old car is compared to like a 35-year-old one. Knock on wood. Good old Subaru. Subaru. All right, and that's pretty much it for the brake pad portion of it. The next portion of the video is going to be flushing the brake fluid, but we got to do the passenger side rear brake pads first. So we're going to do that off camera because it's literally going to be the exact same as this side. So next portion of the video is going to be brake fluid flush. Okay, so if you don't have a modal power bleeder or some equivalent, I'm going to show you how you can make your own kind of at-home kind of brake fluid catch can. You'll see this will make sense in a minute. I'm going to start with a small drill bit, just drill a pilot hole, and then it'll progressively get larger. So this is what we're going to be using to put over the nipple on the bleeder valve. I'm not sure what size this is. I bought a couple different sizes. This stuff is like super cheap at Home Depot and Lowe's. So I have 3 different cars, and every single one of them has a different size nipple. So just go and get a couple different sizes, see what works for your vehicle. This stuff is super inexpensive. Stuff it in. Oh my gosh. All right, try one more. Oh, can you grab that? Hi, girl. Oh, you got it in? Mm-hmm. Sweet.
So tight.
The most tight.
Most tight. So how do you, like...
Yeah, but they couldn't say. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is use this turkey baster. Make sure it's not for food. In case you had some for that warning, I like putting obvious labels on things. I'm gonna take some of this old fluid out. So if you spill any fluid on it, brake fluid on anything, you want to clean it up immediately because brake fluid is incredibly caustic. So we're sucking the old fluid out of the master cylinder for 2 reasons. One, so there's fresh fluid at the top. So when we go to bleed the brakes, there's fresh fluid in the master cylinder. And 2, we want to have enough brake fluid in our catch can when we start bleeding the brakes that air isn't getting sucked up into that hose. Assuming I can get the threads to line back up. There we go. Make sure, yep, that's underneath the fluid level. Now we're gonna put fresh fluid, fill up the master cylinder with fresh fluid.
It just needs a wee bit.
Okay, so the master cylinder is now filled with fresh fluid. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to we're going to start with the furthest wheel because that has the longest brake line. In this case, because the master cylinder is right here on the driver's side, we're going to go to the rear passenger, but it might vary depending on your vehicle. Okay, so for this method, we're going to be using the 2-person method. Anytime that we go to bleed the brakes, my fiance is going to press down on the brake pad, and then I'm going to open the bleeder valve. And then once I close the bleeder valve, she's gonna let off the brakes, and we're gonna keep doing that all around the car. So air rises to the highest point, so you wanna make sure the hose is coming up and over the bleeder valve. And it's a 10. So on a 2019 Subaru Crosstrek, the bleeder valve is a 10 millimeter. Okay, so to start this off, my fiance is gonna pump the brakes until the brakes are firm, and on that last pump, she's gonna hold the brake pedal to the floor, at which point I'm gonna open up the bleeder screw. All right, so she has her foot down on the brake pedal. Gonna open this up, and just like that. And then I'm gonna close the valve. She's gonna let off the brakes. Let off. Press down. Let off. And you're going to keep doing this until you see brand new fluid come through the hose, at which point you know that that particular line is now flush with new fluid. Once the furthest caliper is done, you're going to close up the bleeder screw and then move to the next furthest caliper, which in this case is the driver's side rear. And you're going to keep doing this for the driver's side front and the passenger side front. All right, so we went ahead and did the first wheel that's furthest from the brake master cylinder. That one has nothing but clean brake fluid in it. Make sure every couple of pumps, or once you get done with the wheel, make sure to check the master cylinder. Make sure this thing doesn't go dry. Otherwise, you're going to be sucking air into the system. All right, it's at the max line. All right, now that the furthest brake caliper is done, we're going to go to the second furthest, which is the driver's side rear. And it's basically the exact same process for all 4 wheels. So if you booger up like I just did, just be mindful if there's any bubbles in. Thankfully, this line is solid. There's no air bubbles. So even though I opened it when she let off, no air got back into the system, just the old fluid. So, but something to bear in mind. I kind of wasn't paying attention. I boogered up. Okay, so all 4 corners are done. We're gonna fill up the brake master cylinder one more time just to get to the max line. And the fluid in this wasn't super dirty, but it was dirty enough, and my fiance said that her brake pedal was feeling a little squishy, so we went ahead and bled it. So now we're going to turn the car on, get the brake booster running, and double check to make sure there's no air in the system. brake fluid is good to go. Now, last thing we're gonna do is a tire rotation, which is a good way of extending the life on your tires. Driver side front is gonna go to passenger side rear. Driver side rear is gonna go to passenger front. And that'll be the last thing for today. So it's the next day, and I can confidently and proudly say that my fiance didn't die on the way to and from work because of bad brakes. Brakes work just fine. The last thing we're gonna do is lower the car back down to the ground off of the jack stands, and then double check to make sure all the lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds. All right, vehicle's off jack stands. Very last thing, we're gonna torque the lug nuts to 89 foot-pounds. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Help me build my channel. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. If you want to see something, go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you think I could have done something better, leave a comment down below. If you think don't know what I'm doing and you want to talk some smack, go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more cars that make you smile. Thanks, bye.
You're like, but it won't fit. It has to be turned this way. I'm like, just turn it.
I didn't ruin my fiance's car. Today's a win. Yay. Get yourself a breaker bar. These fucking rocks, man.